Well, hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. You know, I'll be the first to admit that fly fishing can look a little intimidating at first if you've never given it a try. But I think once you've mastered just a few basic skills, you'll find how rewarding and fun fly fishing can be. And hey, if I can do it, I know you can too. Today, we're going to introduce you to a young man who kind of fell into fly fishing backwards, so to speak. Danny Orr's story is interesting to say the least. There are few things in this world that bring the same level of satisfaction or importance as passing on your knowledge firsthand to someone else. Sure, information and training can be absorbed through books or videos, but the intimate personal connection between the teacher and student is lost. This is probably never more true than when it comes to the outdoors. The subtleties of something technical like casting a fishing pole or a fly rod can be frustrating to a beginner unless someone skilled is there to walk them through it. It nurtures a foundational trust that the beginner will need in their teacher in order to get the most out of their outdoor experiences. But this relationship is not all one-sided. Most sportsmen that take the time to invest in a beginner's life will tell you that mentoring someone gives them a deeper level of joy than they've ever experienced in the outdoors on their own. I guess it has to do with knowing you've taken a personal step to ensure that the traditions and skills you've grown to hold dear will continue to live on in the lives of the next generation. With so much outdoor opportunity in Oklahoma, there's no shortage of classroom settings for you to take advantage of and begin mentoring someone. It doesn't have to be exotic or far away, because for the beginner, it's more about the fact that you're spending quality time investing in their life. You'll soon find the more you give of yourself, the more you get in return.
Oh, so let's see. I started fly fishing about 8 years ago. And it's kind of a funny story how it happened. I actually was tying flies before I ever even casted a fly rod. Yeah, and really what happened was I went to a couple of little fly tying classes, and this local fly shop was putting on. And so I started learning how to tie flies. I got a little vise, and so I just go home and start cranking out all these flies and just start learning new patterns and going back to these little classes. And the lady asked me, she's like, "Hey, how are those flies fishing?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know how to fly fish." And she was like, "What? You don't know how to fly fish?" I was like, "No." From there, a buddy of mine that I was working with, hey, we went out and we started fishing, and then that's kind of how it started. I'm originally from Florida, from Jacksonville, Florida. Didn't really do any fishing growing up. I mean, my dad took me fishing a few times. You know, we did some, like warm water stuff here and there, but he was in the military, so we travel around a lot. I got out of high school, joined the Marine Corps, and I never went back. And so when I got out of the Marine Corps, I moved to Wyoming, lived there for a couple, 3 years, and then on to Utah. And that's kind of how I started my fly fishing journey, was in Utah. Which kind of you know, through my work in oil and gas, it kind of led me to Oklahoma. Once I got here to Oklahoma, of course, I didn't think Oklahoma had trout, which they do. So. And granted, you know, we're not fishing these huge technical waters like you find up in the Rocky Mountains or other places like that. You know, it's you know, anybody can go and fish these waters and catch fish, which makes it really cool for novice anglers to come in and learn to fly fish, because this is such a perfect setup for new anglers. You know, it's not freezing cold, you know, and you can wet wade all the time, you know, in the summer, and you know, there's room to cast, and it's just a great learning environment. You know, a lot of my clients, you know, that I teach to fly fish, they've never done it before, you know, and so we get out there and I put a rod in their hand, and they have this great fishery, and we're not chasing, you know, ginormous fish. You know, we're catching decent sized fish, but it makes it really fun to catch, you know. Especially if they've never caught one on the fly before. And so they have a really good time doing that. And that's what, you know, I always have this saying that I tell myself is like, I wish I had that same outlook as they do when they catch their first fish on the fly, because it's nothing like it, you know what I'm saying? Because they you know, they've been tangled up all morning, or they haven't had a look or a eat or anything like that, and all of a sudden, boom, they get this fish on, and they get so excited, and they're hopping around, and we finally land the fish, and they caught one on the fly. Having all my experience in fly fishing in the Rocky Mountain area, fishing all that great water up there, of course, you don't have the same expectation of Oklahoma, because you just don't think that it's like, well, there's no trout down there, and you know. So I was a little bit down, you know, and I got to admit, you know, I'm one of those guys that was like, hey, trout's the way to go, you know, fish for trout, and that's all I fish for. I got down here and discovered that that was not the case, you know, and a good friend of mine that I have now, he introduced me to some other species of fish that we can catch on a fly, which, you know, and now I have a little bit different outlook. You know, you fish for what's available, you know what I mean? And I mean, there's bass and there's carp and there's all sorts of other fish species, you know, bluegill and little perch, and I mean, all these different species you can fish for, because not everybody can get to, you know, these other fisheries that do hold trout, but they can go down the street to a subdivision that's got a pond, and they can go fish for bass, or they can go fish for carp or bluegill. And again, that's really that's perfect for kids, because if you're introducing kids to fly fishing, what better place to take them than a pond that is chock full of fish that love to eat, you know? And you just take them down there and put a little fly rod in their hand and just let them go in there and catch fish, you know? So I did some research about Beavers Bend before I got here. And I didn't know, you know, you're looking online and you're looking at maps, and it's kind of hard to put in perspective, like how far that is from like Oklahoma City area. So I did some, you know, map questing and figured out, oh, you know, it's only X amount of hours down there. Ran into some guys that have a really cool group that takes cancer guys out fly fishing. So I got hooked up with them, and I actually went down there and was able to fish it. And if you're in Broken Bow in Beavers Bend State Park on the river, you wouldn't know you were in Oklahoma. I guess you can say I'm a lot more excited now about fishing in Oklahoma than I was when I first got here, because now I've met tons of people that show me all these different waters and things like that. So
you know, this wind isn't doing me any favors today. You know, most sportsmen, as they hone their crafts and become better at their skills, they find themselves eventually wanting to pass on what they know to someone else and mentor someone. Well, Danny's no exception, because recently he's found a tremendous amount of satisfaction teaching others how to fly fish, and guiding folks to land their first fish on a fly.
Okay, so where I want you to cast, we're gonna try to get rid of that crossbody cast that you're doing. And I just want you to cast 12 o'clock right out, okay? Instead of trying to come across our body, because right here, if you come across your body, we're not gonna get the drift we want. So I want you right out front, you know?
I got you.
Nice, good cast. Okay, go ahead and make your cast. There you go, mend it. The other way. We're gonna mend upstream this time.
Okay.
Last time we were on the other side of the river. Go ahead and make your cast. Mend it. Other way. That's all right. We'll work out the brain farts here in a minute. There you go, big men.
Floating line above the bobble, not below.
Set it.
It's
all right.
Set
That's
it
all
again.
right. Big cast.
Good, you were in the zone.
Big cast. Big men. There you go.
We are with Project Healing Waters North Texas, and what we are doing is we have brought some wounded veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan war, and one Navy veteran from previous engagements, and we have them out on the lower Mountain Fork River teaching them how to fly fish.
There you go. You're doing good. Set it, set it, set it, set it. Good job.
Getting there. Just trying to stay calm, missed my timing on it.
Mend it again. I'm gonna work you today.
Nah,
No excuses, right?
I'm for it.
Another cast upstream. There you go.
That could have been better.
Big man, there you go. Perfect.
Come on.
That's all the line I want you to have out. Put a cast right out there. Okay, mend it. Follow it down. Mend it again. Little small mend. There you go. Set it.
Man.
That was a fish. Another cast. Another cast. Mend it again.
Well, I want to go.
Set it.
Yeah, he's down there. Ah. I had him, dude. I had him hooked.
Yeah, that was a fish that last time. He come shooting straight back upstream. You know, just like a lot of these other groups that do things for folks with different limitations. You know, this one just happens to cater to veterans. And what's really cool is, you know, the fly fishing portion of it is super therapeutic, and it gets their mind off of, you know, the everyday the everyday mundane routines they have to go through as far as, you know, with their limitations. And this affords them the opportunity to, you know, come out here and fish. You know, it just takes their mind to a different place, and they're focusing on the casting, they're focusing on the mending, the fishing, the hook set. I mean, they're focusing on a lot more than what's actually going on with them, or what was going on at home, or what they got to do when they get back. And it just makes them concentrate more on this. So, you know, anytime they can do something like this, it's super beneficial. And not to mention, you know, it gets them outside doing something they probably wouldn't normally do. So my guy, Will, he's actually a lot more outdoorsy, you know, and he does a lot more in the outdoors. I mean, you can see from his cast, you know, he picks it up really quick. Perfect, end it. Good man, good man. And even the guys that's got, you know, more severe injuries than he does, they're still out here doing the same thing. So, and then for us guides that participate, the volunteers, you know, it's just as therapeutic for us as it is for them. You know, we get to bring guys out here that have left something in another country, and that's an honor, you know. I mean, I'm a vet too, but you know, I'm nowhere near have the injuries like these guys have to deal with, you know.
Well, what I find important to this is it gives these guys a different chance to be in a different atmosphere. They get out of the usual rat race at home, they get out of the traffic. You get out in nature and it's just very, very calming, especially when you got this river behind you. You can hear the river moving along. You can see the wildlife. It's just a perfect way to start to heal.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just talking to Will, and you know, he doesn't care about catching a fish. He's enjoying the river, the scenery, the birds, you know, the sound of the water, and he likes to cast just as much as anything else, you know. And it just kind of goes to show it doesn't matter what your physical limitations are. We put his wheelchair right in the middle of the river, you know, and he's out there casting and hooking in the fish. So
I think the biggest part is when you leave the families at home, although they are very, very important in your recovery process, and they come together with other veterans that have been through the same type situations, suffered through the same types of wounds, recovery, you find a certain brotherhood in that, and you can talk to them, you can bounce ideas off them. Also, you can help them through their difficulties, and when you help somebody, it helps you grow and heal yourself.
I can tell you, man, it's been a joy to fish you.
It's a fun sport.
Only
Definitely
because,
see why a lot of guys do this.
It's good for me as well. You know what I mean?
Did you come out and teach?
Yeah, you know, that's, you know, part of being a guide is, you know, not only is to put you on some good fish, but it's also to teach you, so that when you go out and do this by yourself, because you will do this by yourself,
Oh yeah.
you'll be able to do it.
We've got a website, www.ntxhealingwaters.com. We also have a Facebook page, and my contact information and the contact information of some of my more active volunteers are on there. You can get a hold of any one of us, either as a volunteer or as a prospective participant, and we'll get you going right away.
But it's bigger than fly fishing. It's way bigger than fly fishing.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. For more information about Project Healing Waters and other ways that you could become either a participant or a volunteer, check out wildlifedepartment.com's outdoor calendar page. And we'd also encourage you to post your own events on there as well. And if you don't follow us on social media, well, you ought to. We have great conservation conversations every day. For all of us at your Wildlife Department, I'm Todd Craighead, and we'll see you right here next time on Outdoor Oklahoma.